spelling out the definition of sanctuary cities, the waiting game for border communities, and the president's immigration policies.
We slept while there was fighting going around the city. You could hear the gunshots and you just realize that it's not going to stop, so you just sleep.
Learning how to be a regular American teenager after surviving violence in the Middle East.
We found a river that was largely abandoned and neglected and polluted, and we wanted to clean it up and get people to care about it again.
A vision for the river in Mission Valley, the plan to transform asphalt into a green oasis. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Rumors about ramped up raids and checkpoints are causing a lot of fear in San Diego County's immigrant communities. But some local officials and community leaders say the reports are false. KPBS Fronteras reporter Jean Guerrero has the story.
The rumors are circulating on social media, primarily among North County residents. It's making some people not want to leave their homes. I spoke with immigration attorney Ginger Jacobs earlier today. She says rumors of increased raids and checkpoints are unfounded, at least for now, and that people shouldn't lock themselves up at home.
I'm just concerned that the immigrant community is panicking for no good reason and that they're going to lose a lot of the quality of their lives, and especially thinking about their children. Children pick up on fear.
She says immigration activity may be increasing elsewhere, but not in San Diego County. Several large media outlets, including the New York Times, have reported on the arrest of nearly 700 people last week by the Department of Homeland Security. Jacobs says during the Obama administration, arrests were as high as 7,000 in a week. A group called Alianza Comunitaria has a team that goes out to fact-check claims about immigration activity. It started in 2009 when large-scale raids started happening. Ricardo Favela is the group's coordinator. He says activity in the San Diego region has remained the same since Trump took office. The only difference is that Border Patrol vehicles are being seen more often on State Route 78 in the North County. Favela says he thinks the increased visibility may be why people are so scared.
You know, they're driving by heavily populated communities, places where people are going to work, people are going to school, people are going to church. So this creates a lot of alarm and concern from the community.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement says rumors of increased activity in San Diego County are completely baseless. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
Law enforcement in San Diego County are bracing for how the federal government might enforce the president's order to take action against sanctuary cities. A visit from the Department of Homeland Security Secretary did little to clear things up. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh has the report.
When Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly was in San Diego Friday, he tried to assure local law enforcement that his agency was here to partner with them, even if local elected officials didn't agree with Trump's policies on immigration. Still, there are a lot of questions.
The definition of a sanctuary city.
Friday, San Diego Police Chief Shelley Zimmerman asked Kelly to define sanctuary cities.
Remove criminals.
Really, nobody has defined it. And there's been a lot of conversation regarding what that means. And so I asked the question to see, do we know what the definition is?
By the broadest definition, all of California could be considered a sanctuary community. Under California's Trust Act, state and local law enforcement can't hold felons solely for immigration officials. At stake is a potential loss of federal funding.
Anytime there's a possibility of losing federal funds, that's a concern. Personally, I don't see San Diego County as a sanctuary county, but I think it's rather poorly defined right now.
Local officials do work with immigration and customs enforcement. Each county jail has an ICE official on site. Gore doesn't want to see his deputies enforce immigration law, fearing the community will stop working with his officers. His department has about $30 million in federal funding, mainly from Homeland Security and the Department of Justice. All federal funding makes up less than 1% of the city's budget.
Great to see you in Washington. Welcome to our beautiful city.
Talking to law enforcement Friday, Kelly made it clear that they're still trying to figure out how to enforce the president's order against sanctuary cities. On the one hand, he doesn't want to give enforcement money to departments that aren't cooperating with ICE.
On the other hand, if we were still collaborating on, say, counterterrorism or information sharing to get at counterterrorism, that might be a different story.
The president's executive order requires Kelly and Attorney General Jeff Sessions to come up with the actual policy. Until they do, people along the border will be waiting. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
The number of anti-Muslim hate groups in the U.S. has nearly tripled since 2015. That's the finding of a new Southern Poverty Law Center report. The watchdog group says it's due in part to radical Islamic attacks and fiery rhetoric of last year's presidential campaign. The number of anti-Muslim groups increased from 34 in 2015 to 101 in 2016. Overall, the number of hate groups around the country increased by 25 this year. The Southern Poverty Law Center is a nonprofit organization based in Alabama. It monitors the activities of hate groups and other extremists across the country. Follow the president's first 100 days in office with KPBS News. We'll have more updates and analysis on air and online at kpbs.org. Thieves are taking advantage of the Bay Area dam crisis. Authorities still have concerns about the Orville Dam's emergency spillway. If it fails, water could flood thousands of homes. More than 100,000 people who were evacuated have been allowed to return home. But while they were out, some of their homes were burglarized. And another shot of the Orville Dam, this time a rainbow looming over all that rushing water. The photo is from the Office of Emergency Services. San Diego County is bracing for a strong Pacific storm this week. We may even see rain by tomorrow night. Storms have already swept through the area in the past month or so, along with damaging winds and in some places snow. We check in with meteorologist Alex Tardy at the National Weather Service for more of what we can expect. Alex, thanks for joining us. As we can see from your shot, it's a beautiful day today, but I understand this nice weather isn't sticking around. What's heading our way?
Yeah, this is spring fever for sure right now. It's in the low 70s, the sun's shining on me. I feel like I'm getting a tan. Maybe I am. It's a big storm is heading our way, however, and it looks like it's going to come in on Friday, with the biggest impact being Friday night during the dark hours with this particular storm.
So what exactly can we expect? Are we going to see lots of rain, cooler temperatures? What will the storm bring?
Yeah, what we're going to see is the wind's going to start picking up Friday morning, and what we call a low pressure system is going to come along the California coast. Stronger low pressure system than we're used to seeing down here. So that means that places in San Diego will have wind gusts by Friday afternoon and Friday evening that'll start getting over 40 miles per hour. At its peak, when the wind's the strongest Friday evening, we're thinking we could see wind gusts in many locations, even right here, of 60 miles per hour. That'll do damage to trees, interrupt power, maybe even damage to some roofs. Now, with the wind is also going to come rain. We think that most of Friday is going to be dry, so most of Friday looks dry. But once the sun sets, once we go into the night hours of Friday night, a band of rain is going to move into our region, and everyone's going to see about an inch of rain, maybe an inch and a half of rain in the San Diego metro area all the way up to North County. And with the saturated grounds and that much rain in a short period of time, along with the wind, we think that'll be a pretty big impact for our region.
And when you talk about the saturated grounds, what's the situation of the saturation? Can they handle the amount of rain you're expecting? Could we possibly see flash flooding?
Yeah, despite the fact that, it's been dry for a few days, the sun's out, it feels really good, we've received about 150% to as much as 200% of normal, so almost 1.5 times to 2 times as much rain as we should in any given year. We've already received that here in San Diego County. So the ground's wet. We're starting to see the reservoirs go up. The San Diego River is already flooded back in January. So with that kind of rain, we can see certainly urban flash flooding and potentially even some of the small streams like we saw back in January could go over their banks with that kind of rainfall coming in. And our friends to the north, in Orange County and LA County are going to get even more rain. So right now it looks like the focus of the rain at its heaviest point in amount is LA Basin, and the focus of the wind at its strongest point is down here in San Diego.
Wow, so we are bracing for heavy rain and damaging winds. Thank you so much for updating on that information. Thank you, Alex Tardy. We'll have more on that storm system and your 5-day forecast in just a few minutes. The San Diego County Board of Supervisors will not move forward with an alternative energy program known as Community Choice. They voted not to study that program that would allow unincorporated parts of the county to bypass SDG&E to buy energy directly. KPBS reporter Claire Tregesser explains.
Only one supervisor, Diane Jacob, wanted to do a study on community choice, which would let the county control how much energy costs and where it comes from. The idea is to make it easier to use renewable energy, such as wind and solar. Jacob argued they were only studying community choice, not committing to using the program.
Doing the feasibility is the next step in at least seeing if this works or not.
But Supervisor Kristen Gaspar said she didn't want to rush ahead.
When you're ready to move forward and pull the trigger, that's the point in time when you do this feasibility study.
The study would have cost $200,000. Instead, the supervisors decided to do a report on the forms of energy other cities in the state are exploring. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
The city of San Diego is doubling the number of electric charging stations available to the public. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson shows us where they're powering up.
San Diego has a growing need for public car charging stations, and city officials say this is a small step toward meeting the demand. There are more than 20,000 electric cars on the road in the county, but the number of electric chargers is limited. Randy Shimka works with San Diego Gas and Electric. He says SDG&E is already petitioning state regulators to let it install some 90,000 private and public stations. He says the plan puts stations everywhere because access is a primary obstacle for some.
People that live in the multi-unit dwellings, it's tough and expensive sometimes to get a station put in there. And similarly with workplaces, we're seeing that that's been a little bit slow on the uptake, and so we're trying to put these stations in.
A $500,000 state grant allowed the city to boost the number of public charging ports to 68 at 15 different locations. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer says it demonstrates the city's commitment to helping slow climate change.
It's also why we have a reputation for being among the best in the country when it comes to protecting our environment, what we hold so dear to us as San Diegans.
California Governor Jerry Brown wants to see 1.5 million electric cars on state roads by 2025. That would swell the local zero-emission vehicle fleet to more than 150,000 cars and trucks. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Chula Vista city leaders say voters can already see the benefits of a recent sales tax increase. In November, voters passed a 10-year half-cent sales tax to fund infrastructure projects. Today, the first of those projects began.
The milling has begun. The workers are busy. It may seem like a simple repavement project, but people who live along Floyd Avenue in Chula Vista, like Mike Salmon, say it's decades overdue.
Some of the other neighbors who have also lived here for many, many years are very excited because they feel like they were overlooked. One neighbor tells me they lived here over 40 years, and this is the first time that the road's been repaved.
City leaders gather to tout this project as the first of many, an example of tax dollars at work. Chula Vista Mayor Mary Casillas Salas.
This project right here is a kickoff to the implementation of our first project for Measure P.
Salas says city leaders will keep their promise to spend tax revenue on infrastructure.
An iconic power plant in the North County coast was supposed to be closed by the end of the year, but now it looks like it will stay open through 2018. Ingrid Lobed of our media partner iNewsSource says that calls into question the urgency of a no-bid contract for a major new gas-fired power plant in Carlsbad.
Many parties believed cleaner energy alternatives should have been considered to replace the environmentally harmful Encina plant, but backers argued it was urgent to get new megawatts up and running before the old plant was retired. That led officials to approve a new gas-fired power plant in Carlsbad with no competition. Now NRG will probably keep the old plant operating longer. Lawsuits, it says, have delayed the new plant's construction. I'm Ingrid Lobet for KPBS partner iNews Source.
You can see more about what kind of alternative there might have been to the new Carlsbad plant at inewssource.org. Imagine learning how to become a regular American teenager after growing up amid violence in the Middle East. Students from West Ranch High, just north of Los Angeles, introduced us to one student who survived and the message he wants to share with others.
Before the war, it was just like a normal childhood, really, like everyone else. You go to school, you come back, do homework, hang out with friends. And that was like a daily thing. But then, after the war, really, you were really restricted. Like, going to school sometimes would be dangerous. I wasn't allowed to leave the house outside of a certain area because there was fighting around there. Also, like, it was really common to hear gunshots. Like, it came really common to a point where we slept while there was fighting going around the city. You could hear the gunshots and you just realize that it's not gonna stop, so you just sleep. Like, before we left, in about a week, ISIS sends a letter usually, and then they basically give you a warning, either to convert, leave, or die. And my parents, and along with like a lot of families, they chose to flee the city. We got to the airport, and on the plane, we were being shot at from down there. It was really hard to make friends in the beginning because it's kind of difficult when you can't communicate with them. I remember, like, my friends still now, they tease me about it. They're like, oh, I remember you in 7th grade when you went by the name Roger, which is not my name. I just didn't know how to tell people that's not my name. I hope that just as we grow up, we have to realize that life is precious. It's really the most valuable thing we have. And I want to spread that word around, that every life matters.
This story is part of PBS NewsHour's series called New Americans. It's a collaboration with Student Reporting Labs and explores the struggles and triumphs of recent arrivals. Keep those umbrellas handy. We already told you about the next round of wet weather heading our way. Now Shanae Shocker breaks down the timing of the storm in tonight's forecast.
Slowly but surely, our next storm system pushing onto the west coast. We take a look at our satellite and radar over the past 6 hours, and really that wet weather has now started to drive into San Francisco even, but that area of low pressure is still staying well off of our coast. Not really going to arrive until we hit Friday, but showers out ahead of that going to be possible with this cold front going to start to sink off towards the south. But for tonight, mainly clear conditions, very similar to what we have been seeing, though we could see a couple of clouds. Most of that will begin to die off as we head throughout the daytime hours for tomorrow. Our lows overall very comfortable. 55 for San Diego, and we're in those low 50s out towards Long Beach as well. Sticking with mainly clear conditions, though we will see a couple of clouds filter in. Ramona, our low tonight at 41 degrees, 31 into Mount Laguna, and then we make our way out towards Borrego Springs. 44 degrees for our low tonight. Now into our Thursday, that rain going to start to slowly encroach into Southern California. So it's going to stay mostly north of Los Angeles for now. The soaking rain really going to stay into San Francisco at that point. But then it's going to start to head down the 5 into Southern California as we head towards the weekend. So rounds of heavy rain really going to affect Los Angeles, and we'll be seeing some of that here in San Diego as well. Even that rain is going to reach inland. So if you have travel plans for the weekend, especially the first half of it, going out to Las Vegas or maybe into Phoenix, showers going to stick around there as well. So for the coast, it looks like we're going to see that rain extend through our Saturday a little bit longer than what we thought originally. So 67 degrees for our high on Friday, and we're seeing very windy weather with that rain. That's going to drop visibility out on the roads. Onto our Saturday, 62 degrees, and we'll see that those periods of rain extend into there as well. Partly sunny conditions making their way back for our Sunday, and we'll be staying in those low to mid 60s. So overall, good weather as we head towards the latter half of this weekend. Now inland, we're starting to see cooler weather drop just a touch more into our Saturday. 70 degrees on our Friday, 64 our Saturday, and we're going to be seeing windy conditions and heavy rounds of rain. Once again, this rain could potentially be causing some flooding issues as well. Into the mountains, temps overnight going to drop low enough that we could be seeing a bit of snow on our Saturday, not quite looking at any accumulating, but we'll head back towards that partly sunny weather into early next week. As far as the deserts go, a couple of showers and some rain at times throughout our Friday and Saturday, but then heading back towards sunny skies and in the 70s into early next week. For KPBS, I'm Shanae Shocker.
Mission Valley could be in line for a major redevelopment now that the Chargers have dumped San Diego for LA. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson finds that redevelopment push may be the catalyst for a long sought-after river park.
Qualcomm Stadium dominates a 166-acre swath of city-owned land in Mission Valley. The gray concrete structure towers over a huge asphalt parking lot. But this area is in line for a major change, and that change could be dramatic for the San Diego River.
It will literally transform that hot asphalt into green. Plants and trees and, this sort of thing. So it's actually just a wonderful experience.
Rob Hutzel runs the San Diego River Park Foundation. The group was created nearly 16 years ago.
That's a new donor to our annual fund.
To revive the 52-mile-long San Diego River. There is water running in the river now, but the water hides underground when summer comes.
Across here is being restored.
The upside-down river, as Hutzel calls it, was in pretty bad shape when the foundation was born.
We found a river that was largely abandoned and neglected and polluted, and we wanted to clean it up and get people to care about it again.
There's been progress in the East County, but the river is tough to find as it flows through Mission Valley.
This is a little boathouse. This is the rec center.
Hutzel says that's why talk of a huge park is so energizing. City planners already agree there should be a 30-acre park in Mission Valley, and they say it belongs near the river. This plot of land in Mission Valley has been a parking lot for decades. But that would change dramatically if plans for a river park move forward. The asphalt that you see right here would be gone, and in its place, green space with trees and walkways. The foundation has designed a more sweeping 65-acre plan that calls for a major facelift near the stadium. Hutzel stands near the Qualcomm trolley stop and looks to the west.
A created stream bed that would come through here, and it would go down under the trolley and then spread out into a big pond area.
So that little valley area would all be a stream bed?
Yeah, and then on the other side of that pond would be that amphitheater, kind of seasonal amphitheater with a green area where you could gather.
Hutzel says a river park here would reconnect the community to its roots. Walking trails and sports fields would give the area a chance to become a community. That's something that's sorely lacking in already crowded Mission Valley.
Where do you go to go see other people? Starbucks, probably, Trader Joe's. The only community facility of any sort is Mission Valley Library. And libraries are supposed to be quiet, right? So where do you go to have that social interactions? Parks or places like that. And Mission Valley doesn't have any of those. They don't have a community center.
A La Jolla-based development group is pushing the idea of a 55-acre river park. It's a key component of their plan to redevelop the entire Qualcomm Stadium site.
Of course, we have the opportunity at our Qualcomm site and the ways to valuably improve that site that we're talking about, a long-awaited river park.
FS Investors is making a play for a Major League Soccer franchise. Partner Neil Stone says a stadium, housing, commercial development, and a river park are part of the plan.
The community has sought a river park on this location for like 25 plus years, but never figured out how to fund it. And we're going to do that. We're going to do that right out of the gate in sort of phase one of our construction.
The developers talked with the foundation about a river park plan, and the investors say the proposal presented to the city this spring will incorporate the foundation's vision. FS investors would pay about $70 million to tear up the parking lot and build the park. It would be part of their development agreement.
I think the river park is one of the most important parts about this project.
San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer thinks the river park is essential for any redevelopment of the Qualcomm Stadium site.
To take that asphalt up, to open that up for families to come, for kids, for now and for future generations, I think that's going to be one of the most exciting aspects about this proposal.
But the river park won't happen without the city's approval. San Diego officials will have to agree to sell the Qualcomm Stadium land, allow construction of homes and commercial properties, and agree to allow construction of a soccer stadium. And, of course, build the river park. Developers hope to gather enough petition signatures so the city council can't reject their idea outright. If the city isn't happy with the details, the petition would force the city council to put the issue before voters in November. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
There's a new top dog. A German Shepherd named Rumor has won the Westminster Kennel Club's Best in Show. Here's Rumor taking her victory lap at Madison Square Garden. She's only the second German Shepherd to win since the contest began in 1877. Rumor is named for the hit song Rumor Has It by Adele. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.